Now, I would like to tell you about the history of hate toward the Jewish people. The history toward the Israelites started in Egypt. Because of the belief in one God, the newcomers couldn't get assimilated into the general population and were a threat to the security of the country by the possibility of them joining the enemy during the war. As a result of this hate, we became enslaved for 400 years. After gaining freedom, the Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years, and right in the beginning, Moses received the 10 Commandments, and short time after, more religious and moral laws. The nations of the world, who were pagans at that time, didn't like to be restricted by new rules. They believed in many gods and used to sacrifice their sons and daughters to appease those gods. The conduct of a multitude of slaves from Egypt, where a different religion was also a threat to their lifestyle. The hate was spreading wider. By the time the Israelites entered the Promised Land, all the surrounding nations were already united in hate to those different people who came to live among them. When the Roman occupiers of the land ordered to sacrifice a swine on the altar of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, an act strictly forbidden by God, the people revolted. They were constantly fighting the Romans, who were forced to station a large garrison of soldiers in the place, because the soldiers couldn't go home to their families for long stretches of time. This contributed to even more hate. In fact, when the Roman legions stormed Jerusalem, they did it with a hate-filled scream of "Help, help, help," HEP. It stands for Hierosolima es perdita. It means Jerusalem is destroyed. The shining golden Jerusalem was still there on top of the mountain in all its glory, but in their minds they saw it already destroyed. Until now, this hate was mostly nationally motivated. By the appearance of Jesus Christ, it became a religious hate. We have to remember that out of the 12 apostles, 11 were Jewish, and they all were determined to spread Jesus' teachings of love, and so to improve the daily existence of the downtrodden masses of the whole world. They soon realized that because of the hate to the Jewish people, Jesus' teachings will not be accepted. Therefore, they decided to distance themselves from the Jewish nation, and what better way than to put the blame for Jesus, this, and the Jewish people. This accusation stuck to us for 2,000 years. And at every occasion, priests were reminding their parishioners that we Jews are killers of their God. We were persecuted all this long, a long time, for a crime we allegedly committed. I remember as a child, we had to hide ourselves during Easter holiday because the Christians were making a whole day pogrom on us, killing whoever they found to punish us for killing of their God. Here, I would like to tell you about a book written by a German Gentile lawyer by the name of Wojciech Frick, who was defending a Nazi accused of murdering 8 Jews in occupied Poland. He could not understand what influenced, convinced this intelligent fellow to commit such a crime? This lawyer started searching for the historical beginning of anti-Semitism. Especially, he wanted to find the truth about Jesus' murder. After researching all the available documents, he wrote a book by the name The Court Martial of Jesus. The Court Martial of Jesus. In it, he stated that there was no trial of Jesus before the Jewish Sanhedrin. Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea, sentenced Jesus in a summary military trial. The charge of deicide raised against the Jews is historically false. The apostles deliberately distorted historical fact in order to avoid conflict with the Romans. For those accusations of deicide, the Jewish people paid dearly for almost 2,000 years by being persecuted, burned on the stake, and in the crematorium. But we have to admit that the words of Pope John Paul II were clearly a historical turning point in the relationship between Christians and Jews. The Pope officially declared anti-Semitism to be a great sin against humanity. In a document called Memory and Reconciliation, the Vatican reviewed wrongdoings dating back centuries, including the Crusades, the Inquisition, and more recently, the Holocaust. It recognized Christian responsibility for past wrongs against Jews throughout history, and using the Hebrew word tshuva, what means repentance, ask forgiveness. Now let's hope this declaration by Pope will soon be acknowledged by all mankind. There is another reason for hate directed toward us Jews, and it starts with jealousy. It starts with jealousy. While we were in Egypt, then later in several more diasporas, in every one of those places we learned something. By the time we got to Spain, our people were already scientists, doctors, lawyers, advisors to the king, and accomplished merchants. By knowing what each country grows and manufactured, they facilitated an exchange of goods. As a result, they lived better than the local population. It didn't take long, and the nations became jealous of the newcomers, and hate followed. It was quickly forgotten that the Jews brought prosperity to a country, that they were instrumental in building an empire. This hate brought with it a terrible inquisition. When Jews were no more useful to rulers, or when hatred toward them became overwhelming, expulsion often followed. And that's what happened all over Europe. Then, in the 14th century, when Polish King Casimir the Great realized the Jewish people's potential in creating a strong economy in every country they came to live in, he invited them to Poland. And being chased out from other places, they accepted his offer and came in droves. Poland was an undeveloped country with no middle class. A small privileged upper class owned all the big farms where the majority of the people were toiling like slaves. In a short time, the newcomers built factories, established commerce, and so improved the lives of the masses. And what happened in other places before repeated itself also here. Hate to the minority who is better off, forgetting what they did to their country and cultural developments. that they gave the local population a chance to catch up with surrounding nations. I would like to tell you about the attitude of Gentiles toward us at different times in history, blind to the Jewish people's contributions to the world. The missionaries of Christianity said in effect, you have no right to live among us as a Jew. To live among us as a Jew. The secular leaders who followed proclaimed, you have no right to live among us. To live among us. The Nazis at the end decreed, you have no right to live. No right to live.